Prosecco is more approachable for newcomers. There's a little bit more residual sugar and the acidity isn't as high. It is absolutely the number one driver for Italian wine.
Yeah, it's a real engine, just as ice wine was for Canada. It's where people can come in and understand it. It's bubbly and it's tasty. It's definitely still a very strange love-hate relationship between consumers and connoisseurs. Do you see Prosecco continuing to gain in popularity in the next 5 years?
I do believe so, especially because they've come up with Rosé Prosecco. I mean, how smart is that?
Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 184. How did Prosecco lead the way for many people to discover Italian wines? And then why did it get so much hate? How can Mama Jumbo Shrimp help you as a wine lover? Is food or wine the main protagonist of most meals? You'll hear those stories and more in part 2 of our chat with Stevie Kim, the managing director of Vinitaly International, the world's largest wine trade show. You don't need to have listened to part 1 from last week first, but I hope you'll go back if you missed it after you listen to this one. Now, on a personal note, before we dive into the show with the continuing story of publishing my new wine memoir, Wine Witch on Fire, Rising from the Ashes of Divorce, Depression, and Drinking Too Much. Years ago, when I took a Toastmasters public speaking course, the structure was tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. But in memoir, it's the opposite. You don't want to repeat scenes that essentially say the same thing and don't really move the story forward. For example, I had a scene with my partner, Miles, aka Roger, where he and I are arguing about making vacation plans, and another where we're discussing a movie night. In both cases, I got frustrated feeling like I was slipping into the social secretary role that I had played in my former 20-year marriage. It reveals as much about this new relationship as it does about redefining yourself as a person after a major life change. But I didn't need both scenes. One had to go, and this is just a minor example. There were also whole chapters I've taken out. The writing advice, kill your darlings, is attributed to the author William Faulkner, and it means to delete passages and characters and plots and even beautiful phrases if they slow the momentum. I put these in a document I call outtakes so it doesn't feel so murderous, and I know I can use them in the future, though I rarely do. The result is that the book gets tighter, reads faster, and I believe is a better experience for the reader. What writing tips have you heard that have helped you? Let me know. I'll share a beta reader review with you now, and this one is from Dreama Drudge in Indiana. I think anyone interested in wine, writing, women's issues, divorce, starting over, or depression should read this. I love her writing. It's heady and thoughtful. I love the literary bits and the references throughout the book. She is so good at creating tension. I keep wanting to race ahead and read. I didn't know much about the wine industry going in, and so this is new for me. I was surprised to hear how many people are in the industry and that it's as backbiting and misogynistic as other industries. I love the strength the author develops in herself, hoping for big things for this fabulous book. Thank you, Dreama. I've posted a link to a blog post called Diary of a Book Launch in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/184. This is where I share more behind-the-scenes stories about the journey of taking this memoir from idea to publication. If you want a more intimate insider seat beside me on this journey, please let me know you'd like to become a beta reader and get a sneak peek at the manuscript. Email me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. Okay, On with the show. So, where does the average consumer start? Do we start with Prosecco? Is that an entry point or?
We have a great small book here.
Okay, there it is on the video.
I think I sent it to you,
Italian
right?
wine. I'm not sure if I've seen that one, but for those who are listening on the podcast, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. But yeah, it looks like a digestible book.
I have this great small section, and it's the way we start with Italian wine for wine lovers who are less familiar with Italian wines. We always start with, like, if you like cava, try Prosecco.
Right.
If you like white Burgundy, try Greco di Tuffo or Verdicchio di Matelica. Or if you like red Burgundy, try Barolo, Barbaresco, or Etna Rosso. So, like, on and on. So we try to hook into something that they're already familiar with. And then we try to propose them something that's similar. Maybe not identical, but something that they can familiarize their palate with.
Exactly. It's the way Amazon does it. If you like this read, maybe you'll like this book, whatever. But that's a smart way to go.
Yeah. But that is kind of our approach. And it's been extremely popular because it's something they can, sink their teeth into, something they can, it's relatable. So we've been doing kind of that rollout of the wine education, especially at an entry level. And that's been somewhat successful.
Good. So why is Prosecco so loved and hated?
You know the wine snobs, right? When everything is super popular, they think it's not good.
That's true. Happened to Chardonnay.
Yeah, they have to think about why they are so special. And because, to be quite honest, wine was not accessible to everybody before. Like the bulk wine, the white label wines, and then kind of the premium wines. But now, I think because the vineyard management and because of the winemaking techniques have improved vastly, now it creates wine for pretty much every budget. And Prosecco, I think, got a bad rap. And I think it's a damn shame because there's Gwen Prosecco, right? First of all, I think when the champagne became expensive with the financial crisis, right, there was an extension into the overflow into Prosecco because it was just more affordable. But on the other hand, Prosecco is more approachable for newcomers, the new wine drinking, I think, community, because it's easier on the palate. It's the tank method. So there's a little bit more residual sugar and the acidity isn't as high. So I think that is very much approachable. When you start drinking wine, I think wine experts somehow, associate themselves higher the acidity, higher the tannin, it's necessarily the best, but it's really not that way. And also Italian wine, frankly, has a lot they have to really bow down to Prosecco because it is absolutely the number one driver for Italian wine. And I think Italian wine, if it's where it's at currently, it's also thanks to Prosecco.
Yeah, it's a real engine, just as ice wine was for Canada. It's kind of where people can come in and understand it and not be afraid of it. You don't have to know the exact region or a vintage chart or whatever. It's bubbly and it's tasty. But yeah, it's definitely still a very strange love-hate relationship between consumers and connoisseurs, I think. And do you see Prosecco continuing to gain in popularity and grow in the next 5 years?
I do believe so, especially because, they've come up with Rosé Prosecco.
Right.
I mean, how smart is that? I've been saying this for years, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't want to necessarily take credit, but I was like, people love rosé. People love rosé.
Rosé all day, all that.
Why don't you do a rosé Prosecco, And it's been hugely popular. They can't make the stuff enough. But on the other hand, there is kind of the premium Prosecco as well, like Caltizze. It's such a small piece of land. I don't know if you've been, and it's much more expensive than Barolo. It's the most expensive area per square meters in terms of land value in Italy right now.
And it's called Cartizzo?
Caltizze.
Caltizze, yes.
Yeah, Caltizze. And it's a type of Valdobbiadene Prosecco, but it's a smaller, specialized area. So I think also Prosecco, I mean, if people like the acidity or the sapidity in Prosecco, there are also high premium Proseccos for that, right? So you'd be really, really surprised. Of course, the lower quality tends to be a little bit watery and weaker, as my colleague Jacopo, he's kind of the wine specialist at the office. He says that, and it is perhaps, the acidity, he put his finger on it, and he thinks that perhaps the acidity is not as well balanced in the lower price Proseccos. But there's a spectrum of everything in Prosecco. So I don't think we should snub Prosecco. I think there are high quality Prosecco as well as, very affordable Proseccos.
Yeah, absolutely. And another really trendy region or type of wine right now is, you already mentioned it, Etna, Mount Etna. I was there in Sicily, on the island of Sicily, just gorgeous wines. Why are they having a moment? And is it all the fuss over volcanic soils, or is it the majesty of Mount Etna and that kind of image of power? And what is it?
I think it's a combination of everything. One, yes, it is the romantic idea of the volcanic soil. And it's like we take our students, our candidates, our community to Etna every year in October. We do what we call the Gita Scholastica, which means a school field trip. And first of all, how can you not fall in love with Etna?
Oh, I know. It's
Right?
beautiful, beautiful island too.
Yeah, it is incredibly romantic and beautiful, and the idea of the volcano, number one. But I think it's also the fact that they've been quite good in marketing, right? It's a small group of producers, but they have positioned themselves well. And I did this fun experiment. I was involved in doing a blind tasting between Etna Rosso and Barolo, blind tasting 6 and 6, with the presence of the two consortiums of Etna and Barolo. And believe it or not, it's not that easy
to distinguish.
Yes.
Wow.
So I challenge you, actually. You should do that. A blind tasting, get a few Barolos and try to do so I think it is positioned very well, in terms of quality. But also, we always say, if you like Pinot Noir, from Burgundy, try Etna.
Huh. Because of the acidity and the smoothness
Yeah, because of the flavors and the elegance, right? And the finish. So I think that was a very good way to communicate in a very simple way, very complex, but in a simple way. And I always think like you associate the wine, the Professor Attilio Scienza, who is our wine genetics director, he's a chief scientist, as I call him. He introduced this word called synesthesia in wine tasting.
Is it confusing the senses?
Yeah, synesthesia, which is synesthetic, I guess. I don't know in
Color
English.
for taste or something?
It's what reminds you, what your taste reminds you.
Ah, okay.
So, like, whenever you smell like something like baking, it reminds you of your mother, baking a brioche or whatever. Like, so he always says that it is also the place that reminds you. And this is why it's key. They've been I think, very smart in bringing the people out there as much as possible. And they do also an event called Contrade.
Mm-hmm. Been to that?
Andrea Franchetti from Passo Pisciaro, one of the first founders of Etna in that area, started kind of I don't know if you've been, it's called Contrade.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, so that was hugely successful. So everyone wanted to just go to the Contrade and taste all of the producers at once. So I think they've been smart in the way they communicated. But most importantly, I think they were successful. It's near Catania, so it's not very far. And all of the wineries are also geographically kind of dense. It's all located nearby. So you can kind of travel with it. You don't have to travel a huge distance to see many of them and experience the winery visits and also the winemakers, more importantly. So I think they facilitated all of this. And I think it's been really, really fun. And they've been successful because of that. Because, like, I know you're obsessed with storytelling.
Yes.
And I think they are really good in storytelling.
They do. They have their story down. I mean, it starts with a volcano that's still active and then goes to all of these colorful winemakers who have great stories. Some of them are using amphora, the clay vessels. Some of them are doing ancient vines. I mean, it's magical. It's like walking into a storybook, a wine storybook, when you go to Sicily and Etna specifically.
And let's also remind your audience the wine has to be good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I take that for granted, but perhaps you and I both, but like the wine is very good
It
and
is.
great quality, great price. It's like great bang for your bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. You liken it to Burgundy, and I get that with the acidity and, the smoothness and the liquid silk and all the rest of it, but there's something also otherworldly about it. And I just wish I could have more concrete terms. But then again, maybe that would just destroy the majesty or the magic or whatever of those wines, but they're terrific. All right. So let us talk about Mama Jumbo. Where did that name come from for your sort of new media enterprise? What is it and where did that come from?
Okay, so during the pandemic, we've started, first of all, I have the Vinitaly International Academy. We've trained it's a very intense program, and we've trained about 1,000 candidates, and some of them are Masters of Wine, Master of Psalms. It's super geeky, right? And about 272, I believe, are certified now. So it's a tough exam. 1 out of 4 passed the exam. And the main book is this, as you can see, Italian Wine Unplugged. And this is, I think, only like $20 from Amazon. But as you can see, it's like a 600-page reference book. And this is actually being rewritten now by my team. But this is the textbook for our course, Vinitaly International Academy. But it's very dense. It has 400 native grapes. It divides into 3 different sections: the well-known, the lesser-known, and the rare grapes. So most of the people are not interested in plowing through this, nor learn about this unless you become a highly specialized expert. So we thought, why don't we try to make this into a very, very tiny pocketbook?
Right. Digestible, as you said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went from this Italian Wine Unplugged, 600 pages, into this small pocket-sized book.
Gotcha.
And so this is why I call this series Jumbo Shrimp. And of course, all of my colleagues. First of all, Jumbo Shrimp is something I think, do you guys say that in Canada?
Yeah, we
Jumbo
do.
Shrimp?
It's a bit of an oxymoron, but yeah.
Yeah, it is an oxymoron. And people don't say that in Europe. They're like, Jumbo Shrimp. Like, what the hell is that? So my whole concept, and my team hated it because they're all European, because my whole idea was to make hugely complicated Italian wine concepts into a shrimp size booklet. So that's why it was Jumbo Shrimp. So all of the books that we do, and there will be a whole series we've done with this, but we've also done international grape varieties. All of these series are called Jumbo Shrimp series. Then we started doing, and Mama Jumbo Shrimp is quite easy because when I went to create the TikTok account, first of all, Jumbo Shrimp was taken. And if you Google Jumbo Shrimp, all you get are like recipes.
Right.
Shrimp recipes.
Sure.
So I said, why don't we put Mama, as kind of the aggregate so that we can do other projects. So TikTok channel is called Mama Jumbo Shrimp. Pinterest is called Mama Jumbo Shrimp. And we created also the video channel as of 7 months, because when I went to visit the wineries, I was like, why don't we document this? So we started a video channel as Mama Jumbo Shrimp. And now this is actually breaking news. We've started 40 maps.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
And there's nothing like this right now. It's coming out soon. I'll send you kind of like proof copies.
Yeah, that's great.
40 maps dedicated to not just Italy, 5 maps for Italy, but for the worldwide study maps. And these are called Mama Jumbo Shrimp maps because there aren't any like that. And it only started because I needed some maps. I needed to visualize, contextualize with the maps because also I'm getting old. I don't remember anything prior to my pregnancy. So this was really helpful. And I wish I had these when I was studying. So it wasn't very altruistic. I tapped this girl who was doing study maps on Instagram. And I was like, why don't we do this together? So she sent her kind of like mini, very raw drawings. And it took us 2 years to translate her drawings into a bona fide study maps into infographics. And there are 40 of them, and we'll be coming out to the public soon with that. We'll go live with that. So all of these things we're kind of building, and they're called Mama Jumbo Shrimp projects, because taking large, very complicated concepts into bite-sized chunk of information. So that's kind of the philosophy behind it. And people don't understand. And so we're going to just, keep on saying this over and over again until people get it.
Either that or they order an appetizer.
Exactly.
That's great, Stevie. So I'd like to go into the lightning round and just ask you a few quick questions, short answers. So what is something you believe about wine, which some people would strongly agree or disagree with, if anything?
Oh, you're going to hate me for this one.
No, do it anyway. Go ahead.
No, because I know you're crazy about the wine pairing.
Oh, you're not a wine pairing advocate or believer.
I know there's this huge school and it's very polarizing. And of course, we teach how to pair your wine with the food. First of all, I believe that food is really the driver. It's the main protagonist. And I know the wine people hate me for saying that, but I'm sorry. Wine itself is not sexy. So I really think it's the food that is the main protagonist. And then you think about what wines can go with it.
As a condiment. Mm-hmm.
And every palate is different. So I recall, when I first met Angelo and he offered us this very generous meal, and he put all the great wines in the center of the table, and everyone just drank whatever they wanted. There was no rule of wine. And I was like, you know what? This kind of makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if something is too tannic or something is too acidic. And also in Italy, there's a big, I would say, a tradition, culture of bread. I think it is a single extraordinarily popular thing to do, is to take a piece of bread. So in between, I think the plates and also the wines, you can also just stick a piece of bread in your mouth.
Oh, sure. Yeah. If it doesn't work out, have a bun or whatever.
Yeah. Something like that, I guess.
Get all uptight.
So I think that's kind of one thing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Everybody teach his own. But I only wish that I would have Angelo Gaia setting down a bunch of wines in the middle of the table. Then I too would not worry about food and wine pairing.
Yes.
That would be amazing. So do you recall a favorite childhood food and what you might pair with wine? I mean, you don't want to pair, so maybe you just don't want to do this exercise at all. But do you have a favorite childhood food?
I guess because I'm Korean, that is the Korean in me, and I love white plain rice.
Mm.
So my name is Stevie Kim, but in Korean, Kim is also the seaweed wrap. It's not nori, but it's the salted version. I know it's become somewhat popular now as well, but in the past, you would have to fry it, on a pan, like the seaweed, and put salt on it. And you would cut it up with scissors and just put white rice. That was my favorite food, to be quite honest. And I still love that. And now it's conveniently wrapped in anywhere from Costco's to anyone sells that little packet. I love it. Of course, at the time I was a Trekkie, but I think a lot of Asians' food go really well with a lot of white wines because of the saline characteristic of it. Even Etna Bianco, of course, but even Greco di Tufo or Fiano, Verdicchio, those are all I think they're a good pair.
Excellent.
Even though I'm not crazy about pairing.
I got you to pair it in the end.
Yeah.
That's great.
You made me do
sneaky. It was sneaky.
Yes, that was very sneaky of you.
Do you have a favorite wine book, or would that be your own? Or I usually like to ask people about their favorite wine books.
I actually love Attilio Scienza's The Atlantic Geographica.
Okay. How does that translate? Just Atlantic geography?
Yeah, it's a geography Bible in a way.
Okay. Of wine?
Yeah, of wine and of grapes. And it gives you to understand wine, you have to understand the soil structure. It's very geeky. And it's excellent. It's my favorite book because I have it right at my bedside. And if I'm suffering from insomnia, it is the perfect book to get your teeth into. And then it just like that, you fall asleep. No, I mean, jokes aside, it is a terribly interesting book. And It's fascinating because you can learn about history and also the origin of the different grapes coming from different vineyards and how it has transformed in these years. And I love that book. And I'll never understand it, but I love it. His name is Scienza, which means science. I mean, go figure. He is the vine genetist of Italian wine and wine grapes.
Okay. Wow.
And he is a true professor in that I think he has all of the wine producers were his students in the past. So he is capable of making you a little bit curious, just enough that you don't understand so that you would like to study more. And this is an incredible, I think, talent he has because he is able to create that curiosity in you.
Yeah. Well.
And I think that's why it's my favorite book.
Well, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. But
absolutely.
That is what education is. It's literally inspirational. It takes the spirit inside and makes you want to go further and learn. If you could share a bottle of wine with anyone living or dead, who would it be and what would the wine be?
I don't know. That's a tough question because I don't think about death. I mean, I don't want to think about death. And all of a sudden, death just surrounds me.
That's true.
But I don't think about the favorite wine. I know everyone has the island wine and all of that stuff. But I always think about who you're with at that moment. And I think every wine becomes special because you can contextualize in that moment, right? Because even like a Prosecco, if you drink it in Caltizze, in this fabulous, fabulous surrounding, you absolutely love that wine. And you love that person who's with you because you've shared that moment. So I really think the wine is not about having one favorite wines, but it's about being able to treasure those moments. That is the greatest gift of wine.
It is. Yeah, it's instant recall for me as well. Like I remember who I was with, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you always associate your wine with the person you were with, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. Is there one piece of advice you'd like to give other than stop pairing food and wine to our listeners?
One thing is that I would like to tell your audience that Montepulciano,
the region,
okay, is Montepulciano. Yeah, Vino Nobile di Montepulciano is actually Sangiovese. It's the wine growing region. And then Montepulciano d'Abruzzo is actually the grape from Abruzzo.
Okay.
The other thing is I want to teach a trick to your audience is that all the greatest wines except Massetto is anything that ends with aya. So it's like Gaia, Ornellaia, Sassicaia,
yeah,
Solaia.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cute thing for people to understand. If
they're all iconic wines.
Yeah, they want to really make an impression on the, I don't know, whoever they're
dinner
with.
party bosses or whatever. What happened to Tignanello, though?
Yeah, Tignanello, I guess. Yeah, they're up there.
Well, there's always an exception, like the English language. All right. Stevie, this has been wonderful. Where can people get in touch with you online?
So I'm all over the net, just, Stevie Kim on LinkedIn. I'm what you call an open networker. So if you don't have a kind of a psychopathic profile picture, I will accept you into my social media.
We don't have those type of listeners, don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
We screen them.
Okay. All right. Good job, Natalie. And then my handles are usually Stevie Kim 222 or Mama Jumbo Shrimp, Italian Wine Podcast, and of course, Vinitaly International.
Terrific.
I'm all over the net. You can find me anywhere.
All right. We will. We won't stalk you, but we will find you. All right, Stevie, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I look forward to continuing it.
Yeah, Natalie, we got to get your, over here.
Yep. Thanks for beeping yourself there.
Yeah.
I know. I've got to get over to Vinitaly. I've heard so much about it. So, yes.
I can't believe you haven't been.
I know.
It's crazy.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Right, Stevie.
All right. We'll work on it for next year.
Yeah, exactly. Ciao. Ciao, Bella.
Ciao, Natalie.
Okay, bye for now. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Stevie. Here are my takeaways. Number 1, The story of Prosecco's success in helping many people discover Italian wines and then its plunge into ridicule with snobs has so many parallels, both in the wine world, think Chardonnay and Merlot, and beyond, think certain movie stars and singers. Fortunately, there's incredible value in this sparkling wine, and it will persist. Or you could say, my love for it will go on and on. Number 2, I love the concept of Mama Jumbo Shrimp to help wine lovers understand Italian wines. And 3, despite Stevie making a strong case for food being the main protagonist of the meal, I remain a wine-first kind of gal, just like I still buy the earrings, then the outfit. In the show notes, you'll find my email contact, the full transcript of my conversation with Stevie, links to her podcast and website, how you can join me in a free online wine and food pairing class, and where you can find the live stream video version of these conversations every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube Live. That's all in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/184. Email me if you have a sip, tip, question, or would like to become a beta reader of my new memoir at natalie@nataliemclean.com. You won't want to miss next week when I chat with Guy Bauer, host of the popular radio show The Good Life. In the meantime, if you missed episode 28, go back and take a listen. I chat about Father's Day wines, which is right around the corner. I'll share a short clip with you now to whet your appetite. One California winery has sponsored a NASCAR event on Father's Day for several years now. Others have taken a more direct approach in naming their wines for men. The Slammer is a robust Syrah from Big House Wines, whose winery is close to a California state prison, aka the Big House. The dude on the label is absolute gangsta. Gnarlyhead, another California winery, aims its marketing at men who love beer from a keg. Carnivore, a Gallo brand, uses the hashtag #DevourLife, aiming at millennial males. Then there's the popular gag gift wine named Fat Bass. You can fill in the last part. I always thought that they missed a golden marketing opportunity, not featuring a rather rotund man on the label with jeans plunging to plumber half-mast, or should I say half-asked. If you like this episode, please tell one friend about it this week, especially someone you know who'd be interested in the wines and stories we discussed. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass this week, perhaps a zesty Prosecco. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So, subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.